this story die, and I'll be alright. We can't be friends.
Hi Dance Magazine readers, welcome back to Dance Magazine's YouTube channel. Today we are talking about turns. Our bodies change through aging or injury or pregnancy or any number of things. Our center of gravity can be thrown off and it can be hard to regain our center. And just in the middle of busy rehearsal schedules and classes and everything we have going on, it can be really difficult to keep up with them. So I spoke with a turns expert, Karli Koelliker, to get some tips about how we can maintain the strength in our turns, some exercises we can do to feel strong and secure. She answers the question about if turning is just this ethereal something that some people can do and other people can't, or if it's something we can work at. So go check out what she has to say. She was so lovely to talk to, and I'll chat with you later. I am here with Karli Koelliker, and we're going to be talking about all things turns. Hi, Karli.
Hi, yay, I'm excited.
Guys, Karli's amazing. Right now, she's teaching at Highlight Dance Academy in Utah, and then she recently started her own turning training program called AKA Turns Technique. And I met Karli at BYU. She was a Cougarette. And I remember one of the first things I noticed about you, I was like, she is the most insane turner. Like, you are like a top. Have you always been that way? Or was that something you really had to work to develop? Or were you just kind of a natural turner?
I think a lot of it depends on the studio that you grow up in. I grew up at Starstruck Dance Academy, which is in Colorado. And the culture of our studio was like turning. I had multiple turns classes a week. And always in our routines, we had turns, which I feel like nowadays is a little bit less common. We don't see a big turn section at dance competitions unless it's like dance team stuff. So I do feel like I had like a lot of practice in turning, but I always loved it. And I think we kind of tend to love things we're better at. Like I was always a better turner than I was jumper. So whenever it was leaps, I'm like, oh, shoot. So yeah, I've always just loved turning. I definitely had to work at it, but it also, I feel like has come a little bit naturally to me.
Amazing. Okay, I like to hear that it's a balance. It can be both things because I think sometimes turns, if you're not a natural turner or it's not something that your teachers really emphasize, sometimes it can feel like elusive. Oh, you just kind of are born with it or you're not. And so it's good to hear because it was that culture, it was something you worked on to develop. It's something that you're able to do well. So it gives hope to readers, to all of us that like turning like tops is possible. So AKA Turns Technique. Can you tell us a bit about what this is?
Yeah, so I actually started it with Abby Halsey and Autumn Hewlett. They're the two girls that I teach at Highlight with. It's like an hour and 15-minute class. And so the first 30 minutes we do a warm up and then it's mostly just like strength and conditioning for turns. So we're working on higher releves and stronger arms and strengthening their ankles and their core. We start with core and then we do releves and then we do balance and then we do arms. And so we don't even turn probably like the first 30 minutes of the class.
Interesting.
And then the last 45 minutes we just do straight turns. So we'll start with pirouettes and then we have an intermediate and then advanced. So depending on kind of where they're at, we'll just do different turn sections and different types of turns. And yeah, it's been way fun.
Okay, cool to think just how important the conditioning side of things is. Like it's not just about doing the turns again and again and again, like the strength and the musculature that goes into it. Our audience for this column and vlog is mostly professionals or aspiring professionals who have the coordination, different things like that, but they want to improve or maintain. And it sounds like the conditioning that goes into this is the kind of thing that would be really helpful for maintaining those turns. Do you think so? Is that
totally? Oh yeah. I mean, I do think like reps and turning is important. Like the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get. And I think confidence in turns like plays a big role into it. Like if you're going into a turn thinking you're going to hit it, that is a big part of it. But I do think it's such a skill-based thing that if you're just constantly doing it the wrong way, I think that's where kids get really frustrated with turns. They're like, I am 18, I've been turning my whole life and it's just never come easy. And I'm like, well, yeah, like your releve is really, really low and that's really hard to sustain a turn. Or like your ankles are super wobbly and like that's why you're moving around or whatever it is. I feel like turns are tricky because every body is a little bit different. So you kind of have to figure out like what position your body has to be in to like be able to rotate over and over and over. But once you find that, I think if you can find that and like condition that part of it, then the turning part comes so much easier instead of doing like a million turns in the incorrect way, if that makes sense.
100%. I think that's such a great point. And I like that you talked about how everybody's body's different. Because I remember like I was a really good turner and then I got like boobs and I was like, where is my center of gravity?
Yes.
How do I work with this? What do I do? So like recognizing,
Totally.
finding
Yeah.
like what works for you. And then, yeah, finding where your weaknesses are and working through
Totally.
specifically. Would you be open to sharing some of those conditioning things that you recommend people do?
We do a lot on the floor, just core work, where it's like strengthening your deepest ab muscles. Instead of doing crunches, I feel like it's a lot of sustaining that position where your core is locked in.
Yeah.
Laying on your back and like tapping your toes all the way down. And then we do some oblique work on a block. You'll put your arm on a block and you'll lift up, and then we pull our passe up in like a turned out position to try to sustain your passe. I'm trying to do this while I'm holding my phone. And then lower your passe, and then you lower your obliques down to the floor, and then we come up and we passe and we lower. I think one of the best ones we've done for releves is using a Pilates ball. So we'll do some with our back against the wall and your releve is just up against the ball and you plie down to try to sustain that releve. Then we do it where the ball is underneath your supporting leg foot and you'll push into a passe, and then we do like a demi plie, we squish the ball, we go back to demi, and then all the way releve. And the point of that is to try to like keep your highest releve. And that one's like great for ankles too. Growing up, I wasn't really told like, oh, make sure your ankles aren't wobbly. As I've been a teacher, I've realized that that is a big issue for people. And balance ones, we'll pull the ball up with our passe while you're standing on a block and try to releve. Arms, we always put a band underneath a block and you're in passe and you have to like lift the bands up. So it's like resistance. So they're learning that like arm strength underneath and like as they're pushing their shoulders down and lats and everything.
When you start working on those turns, can you chat through like what is the structure?
So we always like start in the middle and just do like plie releve, then out prepare single, out prepare double. We'll just like turn on a song and we just do like maybe 4 to 5 of each rotation, and then we do it on the left. Then we usually do a couple across the floors. We start with like maybe a pirouette or like footwork stuff or chaînés, piqués, and then majority of the rest of the class we'll just split them up into groups and do just different polisacone combinations. Like with all the dance teams and their nationals stuff, we've played with those and been like, okay, let's try, Minnesota's turns or Ohio's turns or whatever.
And then you mentioned confidence is key. Are there like any mental like tips and tricks that you have for turning?
That's a good one. I mean, my teachers growing up would always say turns are 70% confidence, 30% ability. And they would say that every class. And so I feel like just everyone at my studio truly believed that they were amazing turners. And we probably weren't. But in my head, I thought I was the best turner, So I do think there's something to be said about just putting in the time and knowing that you're going to hit the turn. But I also think little tricks of just like, I mean, I feel like a lot of people do this, but when they're trying to get a triple, you can say like, yes, I can for every spot, or coming up with something in your head for each rotation. I feel like kind of gets their mind thinking of something else instead of how many turns they're doing. Yeah. Those
are both really helpful things. I remember teachers having me like count down, but I like this is good. Affirmations while you're doing
it.
Like,
I feel like the numbers, like they are focusing so much on rotation, like how many pirouettes they're doing. I'm like, choose something with 4 syllables if you're doing a quad. Like it can be like, I love lemons or whatever you want, like just something to kind of like get your mind out of it. And so you're not so focused on the number of rotations.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing your expertise and experience with us. I think it's going to be so helpful for our readers, so helpful for me, and obviously so helpful to all of the dancers in Utah. Thanks so much, Karli.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We can't be friends, but I'd like to just pretend. You cling to your papers and pens. Wait until you like me again. Wait for your love. I'll wait for your love. I'll wait for your love. I'll wait for your love. Know that
Okay, that conversation was so great, and hopefully the footage of me doing the exercises she recommended is helpful as you apply it in your own life. I have applied these exercises, and this is my takeaway. They're helpful. Improvements have been made. This is a long game. I think it takes time to get our strength back. It takes time to assess where exactly those weaknesses are and how we can adjust them. So this is something that I plan on working at for as long as I'm dancing. It's like a ballet class. You go to ballet every day. We work on our turns as often as we can to keep them strong and healthy, and it's not just like, boom, everything's better. I have some days where I'm like, wow, I'm turning like I'm a goddess, and some days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even do a single turn. But I'm gonna keep putting in the effort, keep doing these exercises, and it's all gonna be wonderful. Anyway, thanks for following along. I love you guys, and come back next month to see what I have happening.